Well, today's section is going to be an action-packed one because some of the things are going to be uncovered. You will see that it's the same problems that we are having all through the creation of this country called Nigeria. The same problem. That is what we are still suffering up to today. People trying to force religion on other people. In fact, I never knew that was what caused the first Coup. Because these guys discovered that some people are using their office to form another agenda, and that is what caused that first Coup. You are going to hear everything in this video. And
Nzogu was our first head of military intelligence and uncovered terrible plans to wreak havoc across the country. We organized a group of progressive military officers to carry out a coup on 15 January 1966 to stop a jihad and bring sanity to Nigeria.
The persecution of Christians or members of any religion cannot and must not be tolerated. And Muslim militant displacement and attacks against Christians in Nigeria, that too must end, and it must end now. I'm sending Israel's Christmas blessings to our Christian friends around the world, and I ask you, know that Israel will always...
All these terrorist groups are Muslims. All the terrorists in the world.
There's never been one Christian terrorist.
One Christian group that come to attack people, raising, shouting, hallelujah, oh praise the Lord. There is no single one in the world. But when you go, Al-Qaeda are Muslim. Their leader, Saif, Osama bin Laden, he's Muslim.
Yes.
Al-Shabaab, Muslim. Boko Haram, Muslim. Houthi, Muslim. Hamas, Muslim. Harakat al-Mujahideen, Muslim. Ansaruddin, Muslim. All the terrorists in the world are Muslim.
United States forces have launched missile strikes against the Islamic State group in northwest Nigeria. US Africa Command said they were carried out in coordination with the Nigerian authorities and killed what it called multiple IS terrorists in Sokoto State. Nigeria says it was involved in the planning of the operation, and the US military posted a video showing a missile being launched from a naval vessel. On social media, President Trump described the Islamic State group as terrorist scum and accused the group of targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians. While speaking to the BBC World Service, the Nigerian foreign minister defended the military action.
What I can confirm is a joint operation between Nigeria and the US that has targeted terrorists. It has nothing to do with a particular religion. It is, as far as we're concerned, targeting terrorists that have been attacking Nigerians, period.
the US takes their time. US does not just react without substantiated evidences. No, not US. US is a very patient country, and they take their time to get every details that they need before they will act. They struck on 25th of December 2025. That is a Christmas gift, and it was ascertained that they are fighting terrorists and not any religious group, according to information. So they are fighting terrorists. That is what I usually talk about. People should learn and understand where they are coming from. When I say that, I mean the history of everything before you know how to, engage in that, discussion and there's possible solution also. So it's very important that we, disseminate this historical facts and information that we have so that people should understand and know what really happened. So let's listen to Colonel Nwoboshi. From there, you are going to, in fact, this video is going to take you back and bring you forward. You are going to follow the process of what is happening to this present situation, so that you know where the issue started and where you are going, if possible. So
I bring to you a message of truth and freedom, for it is only the truth that can set us free from the bondages of war and propaganda, which we confuse as history. My name is Colonel Emmanuel Nwora Nwobosi. I am 80 years old. It is time to be bold. I am too old to lie. I am not afraid to die. It is time to tell you why we had to try. I am the last of the original Coup plotters of January 15, 1966, with Major Chukwuma Kaduna Nzogu. I knew Nzogu well. We went to school together. We trained together. We trained at Sandhurst Military Academy, UK. We lived together. Nzogu was our first head of military intelligence and uncovered terrible plans to wreak havoc across the country. We organized a group of progressive military officers to carry out a coup on 15 January 1966 to stop a jihad and bring sanity to Nigeria, steeped in nepotism, corruption, and mass murders. The government of Tafawa Balewa, controlled by the Premier of Northern Nigeria, Ahmadu Bello, were using us in the army to repress the Middle Belt and Western Nigeria. Houses and cars were burnt. Thousands were killed. There were 9 of us that planned the January 15th revolution. Majors Nzogu, Anuforo, Ifajuna, Ademoyega, Chukwuka, Okafor, Onwatuegu, and Obienu, and myself. However, 4 of us started it: Major Ifajuna and Major Ademoyega in the south, and Major Nzogu and myself in the north. We then united as a single revolution. I am the last of the 4 original revolutionaries. None published the complete truth. Only me, Colonel Emmanuel Nwobosi, is alive today to tell the final truth, so that the lies will not triumph forever. They used us to repress the Middle Belt and the Yorubas. When we saw genocide, we began to disobey orders and swore to stop them. For instance, Major Chris Anoforo refused to release mass murderers caught with weapons and was court-martialed. He was replaced by Major Hassan Katsina, a northern Muslim willing to act. I was in Abeokuta, but refused to repress Yorubas. Instead, I opened our barracks as a safe place for them to run to. They told many lies about the January 15 boys to justify their genocide. But it is those of us that planned the revolution that they should have killed, not the 3 million innocent Biafrans that knew nothing. For years, I kept quiet, blaming myself and wondering whether at 27 I was too radical, that my actions led to the death of millions. Today, the same evil in 1966 is being unleashed. As I watch, my sense of guilt has vanished, because we were not the evil. We were trying to stop the evil. That evil is radical Islamism. I have decided to speak out and warn the world of the impending disaster if we do not stop it. Each time radical Muslims plan a jihad in their religious mission to conquer the world, they will fail. But in the attempt, thousands and even millions will die. That happened to us in Biafra. At this point, let me differentiate between peaceful law-abiding Muslims and radical Muslims who want to kill others, to force their religion on them. The problem is that wherever peaceful Muslims are, there are some radical Muslims amongst them. That is why they began a jihad in 1966. That is why we had to stop it. That is why they killed millions of our people. That is why we declared Biafra. Because we are a peaceful people, and oil and water can never mix. My story is a warning to Nigerians. For years, I was prevented from speaking the truth by exile, prison, harassment, poverty, surveillance, and death threats held over many of the actors like Ojukwu, Zik, Awolowo, Ibiam, and the January 15 boys that survived. But as I watch today, many of the events that led to the revolution are happening again, like Boko Haram, Fulani militia, Niger Delta militants, Shiites, and mass murders. Some people think we acted wrongly in the January 15th revolution, but they may not be fully aware of the realities then. We were trained by the British to be patriotic, to give the ultimate sacrifice for Nigeria, and to stop anyone acting against the nation. Instead of our leaders using us to defend Nigeria, they were using us to suppress the citizens. We decided to arrest them for their atrocities because no one was willing to act. Not Zik, the president, who was powerless, not Irunsi, the head of state of the army, who was a conservative. There were many reasons why we had to act. One, to stop the killings in Yoruba land and the Middle Belt by NPC, the ruling party. Two, to stop the invasion of Yoruba land on 17 January 1966. Three, to correct the massive rigging of the 1964 elections. Four, to free Awolowo from prison and make him the Prime Minister. Five, to stop the terrible corruption, nepotism, and regionalism of the NPC, the ruling party. Five, to stop Ahmadu Bello's planned jihad. It was good that we acted to save the Yoruba and the Middle Belt people, and we thought that was enough to stop the jihad. We could not foresee that they will massively attack innocent Igbos. Blame those who decided to massacre our people for their evil. Today, we are fighting Buhari. He is killing Shiite Muslims and IPOB members. With the benefit of hindsight, we can see other ways of dealing with such evil. But for us in 1966, we just wanted to save the people from massacre. I wish to congratulate Nnamdi Kanu and IPOB for the good work they are doing to free our people from Nigeria and radical Islamism. Many of our people do not understand how vast IPOB is as an organization and the quality of the people that run it.
So did you hear that from one of the coup plotters? The people that carried out the coup, he's one of them. He has now told us that he's not afraid to die. They've been trying to, silence him, not to say what he saw. And Once you hear the truth about any matter, you will know. You will know that this is the truth, because that agenda has been on and on up to today. Well, if you ask me, nothing lasts forever. Not even injustice. It cannot last forever. Because injustice to another man has spillover effects. At a point, it's going to come over to another person from far place. So that's how these things work. So if you don't checkmate some of these things somewhere, at a point, it's going to trickle down to other places. And the world is beginning to show concern that, these things are not.
The persecution of Christians or members of any religion cannot and must not be tolerated. And Muslim militant displacement and attacks against Christians in Nigeria, that too must end, and it must end now. I'm sending Israel's Christmas blessings to our Christian friends around the world, and I ask you, know that Israel will always stand with you. From Jerusalem, I send warm greetings to our Christian friends around the world. I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. From here, the Holy Land, Israel, the only country in the Middle East where the Christian community is thriving. Israel is the only country in the Middle East where Christians can practice their faith with full rights and in total freedom, where Christian pilgrims are embraced with open arms and are so deeply appreciated, where Christians can celebrate proudly their traditions and openly do so without any fear. In Jerusalem, the city municipality every year officially distributes Christmas trees. It's been doing so for 2 decades. By contrast, a few days ago, in the Palestinian town of Jenin, Palestinians burnt a Christmas tree in the Holy Redeemer Church. That's the difference. Israel stands up for Christians across the region, wherever they face widespread intimidation and persecution. While Israel's Christian population is growing, the Christian population in countless areas across the region has been dwindling due to systematic discrimination and oppression. This has happened in Iraq, it's happened in Syria, it's happened in Lebanon, it's happened in Turkey, and it's happening in the Palestinian Authority. The birthplace of Jesus, Bethlehem, used to have 80% Christian population. That's when we were there. When we left and gave it to the Palestinian Authority, it has since dwindled from 80% to 20%. The persecution of Christians or members of any religion cannot and must not be tolerated. And Muslim militant displacement and attacks against Christians in Nigeria, that too must end, and it must end now. I'm sending Israel's Christmas blessings to our Christian friends around the world, and I ask you, know that Israel will always stand with you.
Thank God that world leaders are finally recognizing and openly calling out the growing insecurity in Nigeria. For a long time, the cries of ordinary Nigerians were ignored, dismissed, or downplayed. But now, the issue is gaining international attention, and that matters a lot. It started with US President Donald Trump, who raised concerns about the persistent killings and instability in Nigeria. Recently, we have also heard comments from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Even global celebrities like musician Nicki Minaj have spoken openly about the insecurity and loss of lives in Nigeria. When people with global influence speak, the world listens. This international attention has done what years of internal complaints could not do. It has moved the Nigerian government to action. Sadly, without this level of outrage and external pressure, our leaders appeared comfortable doing little or nothing while citizens continued to die. It is painful to say this, but it is the truth many Nigerians know. Across the country, from the north to the south, insecurity has become a daily reality. Terrorist attacks, banditry, kidnappings, communal clashes, and senseless killings have turned normal activities into life-threatening risks. Farmers are afraid to go to their farms, travelers are scared of highways, families sleep with one eye open, hoping they are not the next victims. What makes this situation even more heartbreaking is that Nigerians have cried out for help for years. Civil society groups, religious leaders, community heads, and ordinary citizens have spoken again and again. Yet, the response from those in power has often been slow, defensive, or completely absent. Ironically, these world leaders and public figures have done more to amplify the sufferings of Nigerians than many of our own leaders. By speaking up, they have forced the international community and our government to pay attention. Their voices have validated what Nigerians have been saying all along, that there is a serious security crisis in Nigeria that cannot be ignored. We, the ordinary Nigerians, appreciate this support, not because we want foreign interference, but because human lives matter. Every Nigerian life matters, whether in the village or the city, whether rich or poor, whether Christian or Muslim. All we want is simple. We are not asking for miracles. We are not asking for propaganda or empty speeches. We are asking for safety. We are asking for leadership that values human life above politics and power. Let the killing of Nigerians stop. Let children go to school without fear. Let farmers return to their land. Let travelers move freely without terror. Let Nigerians live. That is all we ask. Simple.
The point is that all hopes are not lost, and people are beginning to, open up to their responsibilities, like what is happening now in Nigeria. However, like I told you guys, these things have history. There has been a long-standing agenda, by some group of people.
Now is Zachary Gundu, who is a professor of archaeology at the Ahmadu Bello University. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning. It does help us make sense of what your reading of all that has been happening is.
Well, in a way, if you are the victim, the killings are senseless. But if you are the one doing the killing, it makes sense. A lot of Nigerians don't appreciate our history. They don't also appreciate what has been happening in this country, especially in the past few years. I believe that if people know history, they will know why the Fulanis are doing this. If people know our recent history, they will know that there is an attempt to grab a lot of land from the people of this country for the Fulani of the whole world. For people who don't know, the Fulanis have their original homeland in Guinea, that is in Futajalon. And they had an outing from Guinea. From 1804, the outing in Nigeria was represented by the Usman Dan Fodio Jihad. It succeeded. There was a caliphate which they established outside even the boundaries of this country, because the caliphate from Sokoto, if you go up country, it went into Chad, it went into Niger. And then from independence, we have had about 3 Fulani leaders who have led this country. But in the original homeland, which is Guinea, the Fulanis have not been allowed to lead Guinea. So Nigeria has become their second preferred homeland, where they are inviting the Fulanis of the whole world to come and claim as their own country. And people should realize this. And if we sit down here on our ancestral lands in this country, and somebody comes in to kill us, it becomes a problem. Let me just say this.
Professor, I'm afraid I have to interrupt you.
No, let me just say this.
Just before you say what you say, or what you want to say, I want to ask, how do you how are you able to draw this thread? You have talked about history. Yes. We all know that before now, yes, we fought into tribal wars.
Yes.
I mean, there were conquests every now and then. The Benin Empire, for instance, was quite expansive.
Yes.
And it also, made its own conquests. Yet, nobody has been able, whenever Ife Modake is fighting, nobody is talking about prehistorical or, pre-colonial wars to justify what is happening now.
The Ife Modake war is a local phenomenon. In Nigeria, what happened? When the British people came in, remember, the caliphate was a pre-colonial phenomenon, and it gave the Fulanis some privileges even over the Hausa states, because they manipulated Islam to take over the Hausa states, and it gave them some privileges over the Hausa states and other Nigerian groups which they used to raid as slaves. When the British people came in, people who know colonial history will know that they privileged them. They decided to divide and rule this country by privileging the Fulanis over other groups. So what happened is that the Fulanis moved with their privileges from the pre-colonial period into the colonial period. And now that we have independence, they are also moving with the privileges they had under the colonial government into independent Nigeria. And independent Nigeria is not a feudal system. Independent Nigeria cannot allow a group of people to come into this country from all over West Africa and claim this as their own country. What happened during colonialism was that the states we have presently became fixated in terms of their boundaries.
My question is, how do you know that there is an invitation, as you put it, from local Fulanese or Nigerian Fulanese, as it were, to their counterparts in, say, Guinea?
They have not hidden that. They have not hidden that. Remember, the governor of Kaduna State has admitted that he used state funds in Kaduna to pay Fulani people from outside the country from coming to attack us. Remember that the government is now belatedly saying that the people who are responsible for this are foreign mercenaries. Remember that the Inspector General of Police before this one and the Minister of Agriculture has argued consistently that the people attacking this country are not Nigerians, they are from outside. What this means is that if somebody comes from outside, he's coming at whose instance? Remember where Benue is.
Professor,
if you come from outside, and you go right into Benue to attack it, where are you coming from?
Just before you go on, I mean, there have been other, there have been other plausible theories around this. They have talked about how there is an environmental crisis. The fact that even the Lake Chad is drying up, and right now there is a need. I mean, even the desert is encroaching. We're all aware of that, and that pasture that used to be available for cattle is no longer available. Population is exploding. The usual cattle routes are no longer available for cattle to go around as they used to, owing to this population explosion and development and civilization. All of this do not matter in the context of the crisis that we're currently seeing.
No, all of them matter, but they are not as important as the point I'm making. Remember the so-called cattle routes. They are not today's invention. These are cattle routes which were established when the jihad succeeded and there was a Fulani, there was a Sokoto Caliphate. So the cattle routes then were established for the Fulani of the whole West African sub-region to come in and out of the country.
Is it just Nigeria that these routes were established in?
No, it's not just Nigeria, but try to remember what I'm trying to say. In Nigeria, which has become the second preferred homeland of the Fulani.
Well, I want to believe that we have set the record very straight in this video, so that it becomes very simple to understand what we are passing through. And the video is self-explanatory, that everybody will understand the real issue that we are having in this country. Well, I have nothing much again to say than to call it a day for this particular section. But I'm still Chinedu until I come your way next time. Bye.